e-learning within the Joint Data Center and the building the evidence efforts to disseminate the massive amount of evidence that was generated by the program, and really with the purpose of making it more operationally relevant. It builds really substantially from a live training that we delivered last year, which was targeted mainly for World Bank and UNHCR teams. But after so many engagement with different partners, bilateral, multilateral, there was so many appetite for this that we decided we were going to go for the e-learning. But let me start by properly thanking Sukaina Khan, Director for the Fragility, Conflict and Violence in the World Bank, but also Sajad Malik, Director of the Division of Resilience and Solution within the UNHCR, for accepting to provide opening remarks. Paula Ellis, former World Bank many specialist, and then coordinator of the Building Evidence Program, with Paulo Verme, that I know this is no longer with us. But also Nicholas Leader from FCDO for accepting to join us today, and Dominicos Tabasco, who is going to be working on doing a quick overview on the training itself. We expect the event to last approximately 60 minutes, and we want it to be as interesting and interactive as possible. We even have a quiz embedded in the program today. As Hamza was saying earlier, please join the chat, the conversation in the chat. Some of the panelists here will be looking at the chat and monitoring those. And then for those that are going to be asking questions, please do introduce yourself. So then, and also finally would like to ask our speakers to be cognizant of the time and allocate the time for the questions. For those ones that are also going to be interviewed, going to be as short as close as possible. With that, thank you so very much, and I'll hand over to Sukaina for her opening remarks. Sukaina, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Aisha. Thank you for this opportunity, and really appreciate the collaboration with UNHCR in this effort to address the challenges faced by refugees. Someone needs to mute, I guess. Okay, thank you. So I was saying that very appreciative of the collaboration with UNHCR. We always use it as an example of our non-transactional collaboration based on our comparative advantage. So together, being able to address the challenges faced by refugees, IDPs, and host communities, and particularly through the Joint Data Center on Forced Displacement, and this the former Building the Evidence on Forced Displacement program. So today's events really for me, it's the launch of the e-learning training course on the use of socio-economic evidence on forced displacement. And I'm very impressed by the number of participants, I must say. I know people are very busy, so I'm impressed to see that we have almost 90 people connected. And this is the result, I think, of multiple partnership in collaboration with the World Bank, UNHCR, but as well really FCDO, with the double objective of generating evidence, but as well how we can operationalize it. You may know that historically, there was a lack of data evidence on forced displacement with no bare knowledge on the impact of forced displacement on the people displaced or their host. And we found this even more challenging when we know that the majority of refugees, they live in low and middle income countries, and that those least developed countries provide asylum for around 20% of the total number of refugees. And these countries often, they rely on already limited resources, and forced displacement is just another compounding risk and compounding challenge on their social and economic issues. At the same time, the forcibly displaced tend to be very vulnerable, often finding themselves in prolonged displacement. We know that now displacement is protracted more than 20 years, lasts more than 20 years, and they're requiring humanitarian assistance, but as well, to a certain extent, development assistance. But it's good to know as well that they're not only a burden, they also bring human capital, skills, and opportunities with them. Development perspective are therefore necessary, especially as I said, as I said earlier, in those protracted situations, really to be able to reap the numerous economic benefits of hosting refugees and improving the lives of everyone in this context. I remember when we traveled to Chad 2 years ago in Adre and talking to the refugees from Sudan, speaking with that woman who was a teacher in Sudan, in a country like Chad where they need teachers. They have a lack of teachers, despite the language barrier, which was in English. And really think that we could look at it from the economic opportunities. But we all know as well, and we should have to make sure that we don't underestimate the political sensitivity of forced displacement, because it in a way interacts with other social and economic aspects, from the provision of basic services to management of costs, and how you keep the social cohesion in this context. You have other examples where you interview a girl and she said, "What do you want to do from host community?" She said, "I would like to be in a camp," right? Because she was feeling that people in the camp were better served than the host community. So the combination of all those factors really call for intervention that can only work if they're grounded in solid evidence, right? I'm talking about all those anecdotes, but we have to go beyond that and have solid evidence. And that's why the collaboration between our institution was critical, and really thanks to the generosity of our donors, I believe that we've been able to develop several initiatives that enable us to generate, collect, and disseminate evidence to inform policies and programs. So the program that we're talking about today, the Building the Evidence on Forced Displacement, that research program has been critical to step our efforts in this direction. It has not only generated a relevant amount of research, but it has also stimulated new partnership with academics, with research institutions, and as well as across different World Bank and UNHCR units. These two elements, evidence and partnership, that characterize the activities around the Build the Evidence program have also informed the work of our FCV group and the World Bank more generally. Over the past decade, the World Bank group has really stepped up its effort in addressing the needs of those forcibly displaced and the local community they live in. We are doing this not only by taking an inclusive approach, being informed by the immediate and urgent humanitarian needs, but trying to focus on long-term development goals. And for those who are familiar with our corporate scorecard, which is a new, as part of the bank, bigger bank and more accountable bank, have a set of indicators to keep us accountable on where we are making impact. We have now an indicator on forced displacement and including IDPs. So we trying as well to push our clients for progressive policy changes, for regional coordination to better manage displacement. And second, we support the access, expanding access to essential services such as health, education, water, sanitation for both refugees and host communities. Third, we are investing in programs that promote social cohesion and economic development in displacement context. And finally, we find it critical to address the gender disparities and the specific needs of vulnerable groups. As to high quality data, analysis and research on forced displacement have been critical really to inform these programs and projects at the bank. And the data and research have allowed to underpin our financing, our programs, our dialogue with partners on how we can together provide a more comprehensive support to both displaced population and host communities, without losing our core mandate, which is fostering resilience and sustainable development. And of course, we have to recognize we can't do this alone. We do rely heavily on strategic partnership like this to enhance the synergy between humanitarian and development efforts. That requires really a continuous dialogue, coordination, to avoid duplication of efforts and to maximize our impact while leveraging collective expertise and resources. And it's particularly important in a context of very limited constrained fundraising environment. The Building the Evidence program and the JDC are, in my view, great examples of this collaboration. And we think that these training models, that the training modules, that we launched today, illustrate our efforts in upscaling the use of evidence to inform our programs and those of our partners around the globe. We'll hope that they will get the interest, the traction, and your feedback will be really invaluable to refine these models to make it even more fit for purpose and continue moving the needle on this increasingly important agenda. With that, let me pause here and hand it back to you, Aisha. Unfortunately, I won't be able to stay for the whole BBL, and I wish you a productive discussion, but I'll stay until Sajad can make his remarks. Back to you.
Sounds good. Thank you so very much, Sukena, for these remarks and then for highlighting also the efforts that the bank has been deploying over the last, decades to really support the needs of the forced displaced, but also the host communities. Thank you also for highlighting, so much, the so many opportunities that are associated with hosting refugees, and how data and evidence is really important to be when we're looking at solutions to really harness those opportunities to benefit both the forcibly displaced but also the host. And thank you also for underlining how important it is, like partnership like the one with UNHCR through the Building the Evidence program, but also Joint Data Center, critical really to enhance the synergy between development and humanitarian action. With that, I'll hand over to Sajad for his opening remarks. Sajad, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Aisha, and thank you, Sukena. First of all, I have to say that the data has played a very central role in bringing this partnership with the World Bank where it is today. And without that partnership, we would not have been able to achieve the gains that we have been able to have over the last few decades. More so recently since the establishment of the Joint Data Center, but before that also the work that we did with learning from the evidence. So I'll speak a little bit more about that. But I think I complement what Sukena just highlighted so eloquently, is that this is a displacement is a population that is locked down into humanitarian situations, and sometimes for decades, which is not the most efficient way of managing displacement. I think what we have done with the World Bank is, and with data and evidence, to demonstrate that displacement is not just a humanitarian challenge. It is also a development challenge. And with the data and evidence, we've unlocked a lot of opportunities, and we have gone ahead to make sure that this human capital contributes to the local economy of these areas and regions. So to complement to what Sukena has said, let me just say a few words about building the evidence on forced displacement program. And of course, thanks to the FCDO. Without their help, without their support, it would not have been possible to talk about the work that they did, the data that they generated. It was a great example of partnership between FCDO, UNHCR, and the World Bank. One that has absolutely opened up new opportunities, avenues to take this work forward. The program was truly transformative, and we can see that how from that program new initiatives emerged, how that data was used, evidence and knowledge, and how we developed the whole operation from there on. The socioeconomic evidence for UNHCR operations, but also let's say that the Joint Data Center drew a lot from what the work was done during that period. So evidence was collected and generated for several different themes, and you'll hear more about that as we go into this discussion on geographical areas and populations. It's not just refugees, it's asylum seekers, it's internally displaced. So it was also important that we get information, socioeconomic data, the breadth of coverage for mid to long term, and find the facilities that uses this data, municipalities and operations and others. It did bring operations policymakers together so we can take some decisions around the future of how we take this work forward. In recent years, UNHCR invested, because we had learned a great deal from these events and these investments. We enhanced our own capacity as well in the collection of data, in the analysis of data, in the use of data that has been generated. We did do our own internal data transformation strategy, which was launched some years back in 2019. Of course, it's evolving. But the aim was that UNHCR is a trusted leader on data on forced displacement and information related to refugees and other affected populations, so that we can enable better what we call protect, include, and empower. So if you have a good data and information about this displaced population, you can protect them better. This is what the protection solutions mandate is for the organization, but also include population into national systems and empower them to become more productive members of the community. The Building Evidence program has critically contributed to this strategy. We learned a great deal from this. We drew a lot of information around that. And if I could just give one example around this, with the establishment of the Joint Data Center, and colleagues here, Aisha and your team have done wonderful work over the years. You're already into your second strategy, and the work is already showing great results on that. But just one example where we had just a few years back, we were encouraged by the Joint Data Center, the work that you've done, to share our data with researchers and others. And we had no data on our library that we could share. Today, we have more than 900 data sets on our microdata library, which started in 2020. And this data is helping develop forced displacement surveys that unifies our own data, but also engages many other partners to do research. And then now we're moving more towards inclusion in national statistics. So these and other initiatives, many of which are conducted in close collaboration with the World Bank and other partners, are effectively shaping the data evidence and the landscape on forced displacement. Without this data, we would not have been able to engage with many partners that we have now been able to do that. With the World Bank Group, IFC is another partner, but multilaterals, other bilaterals, is important that we connect. But more so, for the countries hosting refugees, this data is becoming very central for them to take these operations further. So the training is one element in this larger strategy towards increasing the use of socioeconomic evidence and data. And we have also been using this to upskill our own protection response, our own UNHCR staff. So these efforts span across the organization, involves several colleagues at different levels to equip them to how to use this data and knowledge, and to enhance their ability to work with development partners. UNHCR being a humanitarian agency, our work is very much a humanitarian response, and to equip our staff to engage with development partners and how to use this data was something that we worked very closely with the World Bank and the Joint Data Center to upskill our own staff and bring that knowledge and train them and guide them so that they can effectively use this data. So this is done recognizing, as Sukaina has already highlighted, that the forced displacement cannot just be seen as a humanitarian challenge only. And we had to demonstrate that with data and with evidence that this is a much broader issue that requires investments of development institutions, partners, governments, and everybody. And this data has helped us a great deal. This is all the more relevant now as we progress in UNHCR, which we are now beginning to work on more strategically, and not just call our investments in short-term perspectives, but look at it more as sustainable responses. This is an approach that reinforces the principles of Global Compact on refugees. We had 2 global refugee forums around which a number of pledges were made by many humanitarian development partners. And this now is accelerating the mobilization of the sustainable responses, it's a whole of government and a whole of society approach. And again, data plays a very central role in that. How do we then plan more longer term with a longer term horizon? And to be successful together with our partners, we need to be able to create common understanding of humanitarian and development needs of forcibly displaced refugees, IDPs, and the others alike, and the communities that they live in. So this brings me back to full circle of centrality of data, the one which we, Sukena started talking about it, and I highlight without that, we would not be able to move forward. So with the centrality of data and evidence, only a fully informed dialogue with stakeholders can lead to a truly transformative approach in a way that we work towards already now in making sure that these programs are successful. And the refugees become self-reliant to the extent possible, become productive members of the community that they live in, and with their involvement, engagement, development could come to those otherwise marginalized and isolated areas where refugees are often housed. So to close, we are grateful, UNHCR, on behalf of UNHCR, we are grateful to the FCDO for the support that they provided for building the evidence research program, and obviously to the Joint Data Center, to the World Bank, Sukena, your team, FCV, but World Bank at large. A lot of colleagues are now involved and engaged in this, and they're committed to our partnership with the World Bank. As you highlighted, I continue highlighting that without the World Bank, we would not have been able to achieve where we are, and you are helping us transform this debate even further. So this training course that we launched today captures many of the elements needed for a closer collaboration between all partners, stakeholders. And I encourage all who are, and see the number of them on this call, to take the training and provide your feedback so that we can use this new tool in a more collaborative way. This is very central to our work on going forward. With that, thank you, Aisha, and back to you.
Thank you very much, Sajjad, for those words. And again, acknowledging how massive evidence has been produced under the Building Wording program, but also how you highlighted how UNHCR is increasingly using socioeconomic evidence to upskill its protection response. So I think that's this is something that's really going to be benefiting as we move forward. And then, also for highlighting how important this training is, to capacitate and upskill the UNHCR as it also progresses into implementing, more efficient and effective, sustainable response, obviously in close partnership with others, including the development partners in the sphere. So now is the time for the first quiz. Hamza, you are going to be helping me manage this quiz so that we can see how many people are engaged or not.
Our first question should be on everyone's screens.
Bye, Aisha. Sorry to leave now, but good luck with the training, okay?
Yeah, thank you so much. Sukena, you should have been trying to take one of the keys. Come on.
Really?
Thank you so much.
I wish I could. Thank you.
Thank you, Sukena. So the first question is already on the screen. So we'll give, 30 more seconds? I hope everybody can see it. How you move?
And Aisha, as you monitor the responses, let me warn you that there's typically a little bit of a delay. It says on my end 48 responses right now, but it's probably more than 48 people who've already responded.
Well, sounds good. Then what's the majority? Because I cannot see. I can't see.
Okay, then let me report back. On the question of a few months after arrival, displaced households typically have similar needs to host community households. 73% of people say that is false, and 27% of people say that is true.
Absolutely. So I think the majority got it right. So yes, it's absolutely true that it's false. So displaced households, tend to be more deprived than their, local counterpart in almost every aspect. But to know more, I will invite you to take the training. Domenico later on also will be touching a little bit on that. So now up to the next question.
Next question should be
Everybody
popping up
can
on everyone's
see it.
screens.
Yep. Give it a minute. Let's see here whether I can see the answers. Let's see.
Yeah.
I think we can stop now, and I saw that the majority of the participant from the chat, I can see from the majority like 67, I guess it's a little bit 67%, 66%. So again, yeah, right. So the right answer is yes, they typically have modest effect on the economy as a whole. So I guess the majority of the respondents got it right. We still an important part, 27%, thinking that it leads into competition and a decrease in job availability. Again, please do register or to know more, about this. So now the final poll, Hamza, if you could just put it in. To give it 30 more seconds. I think we can stop now, but looks like the majority this time around got it wrong. We all talked about earlier the different needs, of the forcibly displaced vis-a-vis their hosts. So then, some level of adaptation in the design and delivery may be needed. But again, to know more, do register on the e-learning. Thank you so very much for your participations and then for your engagement on this one. So we are now moving to the next point of the event, where Paula Ellis, former impact evaluation specialist in the building of work evidence on forced displacement, to walk us through why the e-learning from the EBOs, Building the Evidence Research Program. Paula, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Aisha. Wonderful to be here. Wonderful to see so much participation and interaction. So this is the launch event for an e-learning course titled Learning from the Evidence on Forced Displacement. This is the result of a collaboration between Building the Evidence and the Joint Data Center on Forced Displacement. The content of the training draws from more than 140 studies and papers, including more than 40 academic publications. Building the Evidence was a 7-year research program. It funded research in 36 countries, covering a variety of sectors, including health, education, social protection, jobs, Also themes such as gender, social cohesion, but also included methodological papers such as on how to estimate poverty in forced displacement contexts and more topics really. So the training is now an effort to translate all this body of new cutting edge novel research, data and evidence into actionable findings, recommendations, and takeaways for the use of practitioners and policymakers, all those of you working to design, implement, and advise on forced displacement challenges. So really, in short, it is an effort to respond to the so what question. There wasn't enough data, there weren't research papers, now there is all of these, and what are we making out of it? What do I take it away from it as a practitioner, as someone that on my day-to-day works on forced displacement alongside communities that are displaced and those that host them. We can move to the next slide, please. Thank you. Research, dissemination, and uptake was a core component of building the evidence. So it was done throughout the program and in various formats. So we invested into creating blogs, policy briefs, newsletters, press releases, all of these to approach our target audience, which are practitioners and policymakers in the space. We also held a number of webinars, seminars, and workshops. And the training now fits into our research dissemination and uptake strategy as well. It is actually the final effort to try and translate all the evidence into a format that's accessible and actionable. So about a year ago, in the fall of 2023, we held the first phase of the program. So this was a series of webinars. It was attended by a smaller audience to allow for interaction. We kept the room to a maximum of 40, 50 participants, but we had much more demand. In fact, we received more than 700 applications, and this came from the World Bank, UNHCR, but many other organizations beyond, and also from all types of professions within their organizations. So we had more early career professionals as well as senior management. So the training now in the e-learning format is really an attempt to reach this wider audience and allow for interaction, by anyone, anytime, according to needs and preferences. I should say as well that yes, this was a UK UNHCR World Bank program, but really we had contributions from a number of researchers, universities, NGOs, research institutes, host governments, donor governments, and so on. And the training as well as the e-learning was a collaborative effort, and it is the result of a collaborative effort. We had contributions from World Bank, UNHCR, including operational staff. So you'll see some of the operational staff took the time to actually record a video or share their insights, and so we value a lot all of that. Harvard Humanitarian Initiative, Brookings Institution, Columbia University, Georgetown University, the University of Pennsylvania, ODI, American Institutes for Research, all contributed to the development of the e-learning. So we hope this will be a valuable resource. We hope you'll find it helpful. We hope that you engage with the content and go back to your teams, and that sparks discussion, or that you pick interest in a specific paper, or want to know more about, why we had the responses, why it isn't true that always, for example, social protection systems, national social protection systems are adequate to assist the needs of displaced populations. And ultimately, we hope it helps you in your job and takes us to deliver better, more informed programs and policies for the benefit of people who are displaced in the communities that host them. So I hope everyone enjoys the training, and I'll hand it over back to you, Aisha, with thanks.
Thank you very much, Paula, for this and all the work that you have done to actually build this e-learning to friction. No, so we're really hoping that the traction we have seen when we organized initially before the e-learning, we continue to see the same level of engagement. Like I said, both Maya and I, when we want to see different stakeholders, there were a lot of interest in terms of, the e-learning. So we really hope that, we continue to see those traction, and then we will welcome also feedback and input so we can better. So now let me hand over, but thank you, Paula. Let me hand over to Nicholas Leader from FCDO, who is the lead humanitarian research and innovation in FCDO. And then this is also, I would like also to acknowledge the extensive, support financial that was provided by FCDO to the Building Evidence Work Program. Nick, thank you for being with us today. Thank you. Over.
No, thank you very much for the invitation. And I wanted to make a couple of quick points, but just firstly, just to acknowledge what colleagues have said before. I think one of the many great things that have come out of this program is the greater collaboration between the World Bank and UNHCR, and not just those two organizations. I think bringing together the humanitarian and the development communities through data and through evidence. But just in terms of the points I wanted to make, I just wanted to make 2 points about the use of evidence generally. The first is that it's increasingly a priority for FCDO, for ourselves, but also for our partners to use and to be seen to use evidence throughout everything that we do, and to be able to demonstrate good design and good impact. So we will be increasingly expecting and asking and encouraging our partners to both use and to demonstrate the use of evidence more thoroughly, especially in program design, but throughout the program cycle. So as I said, it'll be part of what we expect partners to demonstrate more and more in the future. The second thing is that we know that that's hard. There are many barriers to the use of evidence, political, cultural. It's very hard. Colleagues sometimes have very deeply felt views about theories of change. Evidence can contradict those. It can be politically inconvenient for people to acknowledge that refugees can bring some benefits in the long term. So there are many barriers to the use of evidence. But the first and possibly the easiest barrier is just to provide it to people openly and transparently in an attractive and accessible format. And that's what this e-learning course does. So we're very pleased to see that all of the fantastic evidence that was generated through the program, and in particular thanks to Paula for being a key part of that, but all that evidence is now being in part made accessible through this program. So thank you to all, and back to you, Aisha.
Thank you very much, Nick, again, for underlining how important this whole partnership. Again, we're still very much invaluable for the support that you have provided to this program, that's in the massive evidence that have been, produced. And then we're looking at, again, continuing disseminating with these e-learning courses, but also, as part of other engagement. So now I'll hand over to our dear Domenico to work us a little bit on, the training and the model themselves. Domenico, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Aisha. I hope you can hear me well.
Yes, we can.
Great. Thank you very much, Aisha, and thanks to all of you for being here today. You are very numerous, and that's very, very encouraging. So we've been talking about the training, and so it's time to start looking at it. So first of all, let me share my my presentation, which I'm going to start by providing you with a link to the website where the training sits. So if you can't wait to see the link, here it is in a QR code. You can start navigating through it through your mobile. Hamza will kindly put this also on the chat, and of course this link is available also through the JDC website. Once you open the link, and I would like to stress that the link is open to everyone. It's not just a World Bank account that can access the training, but upon registration, you can all access this, and you can then access the training course, which, as you can see, is structured in different modules. It's 8 modules, which you can navigate at your pace, at your leisure. You can decide in which order you want to take the modules. You don't need to take them all, but of course, we encourage you to take them all. And if you take them all, you will also be receiving a certificate at the end, which recognizes the effort that you have put into, accessing the course and learning about socioeconomic evidence on forced displacement. The course is public, therefore, is for free. If anyone asks you for money for accessing this course, please note that this is not our course, therefore. And it's structured around 8 modules that cover several socioeconomic dimensions on forced displacement, moving from some more technical aspects such as impact evaluation to social cohesion, social protection, jobs, education, health, and so on. And the reason for this is because we really would like to provide as good as a complete overview on themes that intersecate with the forced displacement around a number of dimensions. This is to increase the operational value of this training. You may be working for UNHCR, for World Bank, or for any other institution. We hope that you can find this material of relevance for your work, and that you can use some of these tools in your everyday work around forced displacement, or this can inspire you to use this or to work more around forced displacement. Let me very briefly show you how these modules are structured. And the modules are structured in a simple way, and effectively simplicity, if you want, is one of the key elements around this training. We've tried to keep the training simple and as accessible as possible, also in terms of the language used in these modules. Despite the fact that these modules are very often rely on quantitative socioeconomic evidence, there is no prerequisite in terms of knowledge of statistics or econometrics in order to fully appreciate the material. All the modules, and as you can guess from this slide, I've opened the module on gender and forced displacement. All the modules are structured in different components, 4 to 5 different segments. The segments themselves contain the material, and of course, depending on the topic, the material, the way the material is presented differs across modules. Nothing though that we try to keep this module as interactive as possible. So within the modules, you will find interactive tables where you can click to discover new elements of evidence. There are panels that we have represented and reproduced in order to give the opinion, to provide the opinion of different type of experts. And then there are, of course, quiz, like the one you just took before. And I have to say that, of course, once you go through the module, you will see that the questions that you have a brief look at before with the quiz that Aisha provided are more contextualized within a module. So some of the answers that might have been a bit surprising before will become less surprising, and because you will be able to relate them to the material you've seen, which is, of course, we're not providing absolute truth, but we're providing an answer based on the evidence that is given in the course itself. So everything will be contextualized within the module. I would like very briefly to show you the introduction, because if there is one part of the modules where it's always quite consistent, is the introductory part. So all modules, as Aisha mentioned very briefly before, start with a video that is provided by one of the experts of the many experts that contributed to the production of the material for this training. And these videos that only last about 2 minutes are particularly useful because they help providing with the objective of the course, an overview of the material, and also to help operationalize the content for the needs of the audience. So some of you may recognize this is Diana Arango from the World Bank. She's an expert in gender and development, and we've asked her to provide us with the video for this particular module. After that, we have a brief overview of the module itself. So some of the main important parts of the modules, followed by the module objectives. So within the first 4 to 5 minutes of each module, you will be able to have a complete overview of what the main topics are, what you can expect in the module, what the objectives are, and what you can take home. As I said before, the context, by and large, the content is non-technical, but there are, of course, some elements that requires more attention, some elements that needs to be discussed more in details. And those are the parts in which we have, if you allow me to use this verb, we have hired some virtual help We have hired some virtual expert like this lady here who come in every time there is the need to go a bit deeper into a specific topic. We have 8 modules, so we have 8 different experts, and we've also taken the opportunity with this expert to show how much we believe in the collaboration between the bank and UNHCR. So, for example, this lady is called Aisha Malik. I'm sure that both Aisha and Sajad will appreciate this reference to our strong collaboration. The final element that I would like to point out refers instead to the last part of the modules. So after the introduction, of course, the modules goes ahead. You can, and I will let you discover these modules more in details. But then at the end of the modules, you will always have the possibility to see a recap of the material, so that you close the module and you have the takeaway points that you can bring with you and which you can reflect on. And together with that, which I think is also very, very relevant and worth highlighting, come for each of the modules an additional set of resources that you can access online and which should help you reflect on this material and maybe answer some of the questions that you might have while you navigate through the modules. And on the topic of questions, I would like to close this presentation, but thinking about the fact that, stressing the fact that this training is effectively part of the new JDC strategy, of the strategy 2024-2027. And we intend to invest more on training opportunities. We are actually thinking about how to best leverage on this training material at the moment in order to make it more effective and to make it more operationally relevant for UNHCR, World Bank, and colleagues from other institutions as well. And therefore, it will be very important for us to hear about your questions, any question that you might have around it. Your feedback will be absolutely crucial to help us, as Sajad himself already pointed out at the beginning, to help us improve and perfection this material to make sure that it's effectively targeting your needs and those of your institution. Once you complete the entire course, not only you receive the nice certificate that I mentioned before, but you will also receive an email that is asking you for your feedback. But you don't have to wait until you've completed the course should you want to provide us with feedback. Should you want to give us some comments? Should you want to indicate opportunities for combining this training material with other training that your institution may want to deliver, either in person or virtually? So therefore, stimulating collaboration between us and your institutions. So the plea with which I would like to end this presentation is, please do reach out to us. Feel free to contact us about this material, because it's only through a collaborative approach that we can make sure that this material is really useful for your institution and we can really reach the objective of operationalizing socioeconomic evidence, which has been at the core of the activities, both of the building the evidence on forced displacement and nowadays at the Joint Data Center. So I end here with my email address and our website. I invite you to visit our website and to stay in touch with us. Thank you very much. Over to you, Aisha.
Thank you so very much, Domenico, for walking us through the models. I hope that you have whet the appetite for many participants today, and I've seen from the chat that some are already trying to register, no? And even though this being an e-learning, we try to make it as interactive as possible. We really hope that we will get the feedback loop that we will get. We can make it better if we hear from you, if we get your feedback to refine, so that we can the end product can even better be servicing the different purposes you may have by taking this training, right? And then one of the points that Domenico highlighted earlier, how this training actually fit within JDC strategic priorities as how do we operationalize all of the data and evidence that's out there. Especially those ones that came from the building evidence that have really not on providing us evidence on a number of themes, but also actionable findings. So at the JDC, as we're also rolling out our mandate, we're looking at how do we mainstream the collection of data on the forcibly displaced, but also making it more available to practitioners and researchers to utilize, like we want to do through this training. So now I think we have 9 minutes for questions, comments, feedback before we can wrap it. Thank you. Any questions? I don't see any hands. Do you see any hands?
No. Can I come in very, very briefly, Aisha? It's Domenico.
Sure, Domenico. Yes, sure.
No, just to clarify one thing, because I see some questions in the chat. I just wanted to reiterate that the course is not restricted to World Bank accounts. It is accessible upon registration. So those of you like myself who do not have a World Bank account, you click on the link that I've provided you with, and once the link is open, there is a small link there that can be used by non-World Bank people to access a registration form. Upon registration, you'll be able to access the training. Just to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Domenico. I think one idea behind actually producing this e-learning was that because when we first offered, the face-to-face training, if you will, it was just restricted to bank and UNHCR teams. So we wanted to really make this as a global public good for anyone to use. So this is why it was converted, if you will, on an e-learning modules. And we're looking, as part of the JDC to try to see to which extent we can also think about, other way to build from this training to make it even more accessible, more useful and fit for purpose for the different, enrolling. Maybe Nick, if we don't have any question, may I ask you, what more do you think FCDO could be doing to be really promoting and, expanding the use of this training?
Well, we'll certainly circulate through our networks and make it available to all of our humanitarian colleagues and all of our, and I'm happy to try and circulate through our networks, through the newsletters, etc., that we have. So I will definitely be doing that. And as I said, we're increasingly looking at ways to encourage or incentivize the use of data by our partners and analysis. So I think increasingly colleagues will be, when engaging with FCDO at the country level, FCDO will be asking questions around the data and digging into the evidence behind the logic of program design, and looking at different, the consideration of different options and why you've chosen one option over another, etc. So I think that will be, those would be the ways that we'd approach this. And of course, we might think about giving some money as well.
Thank you very much, Nick. Any other questions in the room?
Aisha?
Yes.
There is a question in the chat that I believe Paula should be answering, because it's about her.
Sorry, I should be opening. Yeah, sure. Yeah, sorry, I should be opening my chat. Thank you so much, Domenico. Paula, I think, on the map on CAR. Yeah. Why do we have that? So yes, you can go with it.
Yeah, I was typing a response. So the map showed that we didn't have a study that was specifically on Central African Republic. In fact, the JDC can help me on that. So this is, it wasn't intentional, but I also think it could have been, like, the result of not having a study specifically on Central African Republic could have been driven by the lack of data at the point we started the program, at the point we developed the research. And I wanted to ask help from JDC colleagues, because I think there are now data available on CAR, and that hopefully will lead to research being produced in the future.
Absolutely. And I see Daniel here, but just quickly on JDC, the JDC supported the collection and the inclusion of the forcibly displaced, in the national surveys, and that had led to the Central African Republic first poverty assessment featuring IDP, this at the same, like the host in every single outcome and indicator that was assessed on the review. Happy to put the link of that poverty assessment that was completed, and whereby we had the forcibly displaced featured the same way as the host. But I saw Daniel had his hand raised. Daniel? Do you have a questions or was it a mistake? Yes, Daniel, please go ahead.
The clarification. Thank you from the discussion.
Daniel, looks like your sound system is not very clear. So if you don't mind, because we just little 4 minutes to the closing, and if you leave it in the chat, we will be more than happy to answer the question. And yes, Guled, I saw a question. Yes, there's a recording. This is being recorded, and that will be shared, after this. I think we are 3 minutes to closing. So I would like to thank everyone that tuned in today from different part of the world. We hope that you find this, interactive, and then what your interest to go enroll on the training. And again, like I said, we look forward to receiving feedback so that we can even refine and tailor it to support some of your specific needs that you may be having from this data and evidence. I wanted, before I wrap up, thank key people that have made this training happen, starting from the, Nabila that was spearheading the whole building an evidence program, Paula Vermeer that has left the bank now, that really, coordinated and led all the work on this. Paula Ellis that's with us today. Thank you so much. Dini, I think, we've so much benefited from you, and Dominica has so much value then on pulling this e-learning today that we could be proposing. And for today's events, I would like to also acknowledge and thank Imran and Hamza really for convening us today and allowing to really do a quick presentation and then put this training out there for people to register. Sam Taylor and Kay Winning from the back, also from the OLC team that have made also this possible, and everybody else, and also our colleagues in the Joint Data Center, Catherine and Melanie, for helping organize it. And I would not close without thanking Sajad for his opening remarks today, and also for keeping us abreast on some of the progress that's happening within UNHCR in terms of socioeconomic data to become even more effective. And Sukaina for highlighting all the efforts that the bank has been doing on that perspective of how important data and evidence are, but also the partnership like this that had led to this training. Nick, again, for FCDO, for really availing the resources that have allowed, for all of these, and, by extension, also this learning. I think I've done the round, and everybody else that have connected today, I think we have recorded the event and then we'll be sharing it. We really hope forward to, down the line, organizing a follow-up to see, feedback from those, those on that will be taking the e-learning. Thank you so very much, and have a good night, good evening from wherever you are today. Thank you.
Thank you very much.